Hi, welcome back to Hannity. 2016 Republican presidential candidate Governor Christie. He's been campaigning hard in New Hampshire, and his efforts seem to be paying off because his poll numbers are rising now in the Granite State. Earlier, I spoke with the New Jersey governor about all of this and more. Take a look. Governor, welcome back.
Happy to be back, Sean. Thanks for having me.
All right, you've been spending a lot of time in New Hampshire, but it appears to be paying off for you. You have one poll now, you're in, well, two polls, you're in double digits. How important now is it for you to do well there? You've spent far less time in Iowa, but you have been spending time there. How important is New Hampshire to the campaign?
It's important to everybody, and it's certainly important to us. I mean, you know, Iowa and New Hampshire are going to winnow this field, in my view, Sean, from 12 candidates down to 4 or 5. And so it's important for us to do well in Iowa and do very well here in New Hampshire. And I think from the reaction we're getting here, we feel momentum really moving in our direction. And I think people are listening to our message of securing the homeland first, keeping the American people safe, and improving our economic situation. I think those things are being received well, and we're moving forward here.
Let me ask you about the president's his position on guns and his executive action on guns. And you called the president a petulant child. Explain.
Now, listen, this is a president who came into office, as you know, in 2008 with a big majority in the House and with a filibuster-proof majority in the Senate because of his policies and his conduct in office. 7 years later, we have our largest majority in the House since 1928, and we have a majority in the Senate, and we have 31 of the 50 governorships. And now, since the president has lost all of that, he now has decided he's just going to write laws on his own. He's going to give us edicts as if he's a king, and that is a petulant child. He is refusing to listen to the will of the American people, which is they reject his policies. And so that's why I call him a petulant child. He's doing it on guns. He did it on immigration. He's done it on Obamacare.
But aren't the Republicans emboldening him? I mean, they said they would stop. They ran in 2014. Give us the Senate. We'll stop the president's proposal for executive actions on immigration. And they said they would defund the Department of Homeland Security. And then they caved in. Then they gave it.
Yeah. Listen, the United States Congress has been weak. They've been weak and they've been vacillating, and they haven't done their job. And what we need in Washington now is a strong Republican president who knows how to govern. You know, Sean, in New Jersey over the last 6 years, I have made tough decisions and implemented them with a legislature of the opposite party. I've done more in New Jersey than they could ever think about doing in the United States Senate in Washington, D.C. And so you're right, they have emboldened the president to an extent because they've been unwilling to be tough with him. When I get to the White House, there will be no hesitation for me to make the tough decisions that need to be made because I've been doing it for the last 13 years as a former federal prosecutor and now as the governor of New Jersey.
Let me ask you about your positions in New Jersey. New Jersey has some of the toughest gun laws in the country. In '95, you ran on a platform of supporting the assault weapons ban. You said that GOP opponents that wanted to repeal it were dangerous, crazy, and radical. And you supported in 2009, you ran against opposing attempts to permit concealed carry laws in New Jersey. Where do you stand now? Because you appear to have changed.
Well, listen, in 1995, Sean, I was 32 years old, and I've changed my mind. And the biggest reason that I changed my mind was my 7 years as a federal prosecutor. And what I learned in those 7 years was that we were spending much too much time talking about gun laws against law-abiding citizens and not nearly enough time talking about enforcing the gun laws strongly against criminals. And I saw the difference when I did that for 7 years as a federal prosecutor. I learned the difference. And I learned what the limitations are of these laws that people are talking about and how they much more greatly infringe on law-abiding citizens than they do anything to prevent crime. Having learned that, my position's changed. And quite frankly, if I had the choice now, I'd make New Jersey a state where you could have a shall issue on conceal and carry. Now, our legislature won't do that, but what I have done recently is to make sure that we're making it easier for folks to be able to get a permit in New Jersey because they deserve the right to do that as law-abiding citizens.
You know, it's fascinating. I ask the question all the time of people that are on the anti-gun side. And I say, okay, if you're in a situation like the tragedy and the murderous rage in San Bernardino, and you're in a room like that, would you want somebody that knew how to use a firearm and had one with them? Or if somebody breaks into your house, what are you going to do if they are armed and you are not? And there's not a good answer. There's no good answer except you're a sitting duck for the most part if you're not armed. So, you know, is that part of what you learned as being a prosecutor?
Well, there's no question about that. And I also learned that you've got to get those people that you're talking about, the folks who are in the murderous rage in San Bernardino, or the person who enters your home to try to rob you or to try to do harm to your family. You have to get those people off the streets, too. And the fact is that we're not spending nearly enough time on this. And this is part of the president's problem. Where's he been when crime rate and the murder rate in Chicago has gone up 18%? Where's he been when the murder rate in New York's up 11%? Instead, he and liberals like Bill de Blasio and Rahm Emanuel and others, what they're doing is not supporting the police departments, not making sure that they're being supported and they're letting them do their jobs. And so we have criminals who have easy access to guns. And then in places like Chicago and New York, and you know this because of your experience in New York, it is incredibly difficult for a law-abiding citizen to get a gun. Is that making New York or Chicago safer? It seems to me that the evidence shows that it's not. And so really what changed me, Sean, is as a prosecutor, I got to learn the evidence and what's really going on out in the world of law enforcement, and that's why my position changed.
All right, Governor, congratulations on those poll numbers in New Hampshire. Thank you for being with us. We appreciate your time as always.
Sean, thank you for having me on, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.